in its 14th consecutive NCAA tournament and 20th with Brenda Freese at the helm in her 22 years at Maryland. The Terps a rare at-large bid and double-digit seed. They are the 10 seed in the Portland 4 region. They'll face 7 seed Iowa State and Stanford. Winner will most likely get the 2 seed Cardinal. While the Terps failed to reach 20 wins this season for the first time in 20 years, it's a brand new season come March, and they'll gladly see if the Cinderella slipper fits.
In postseason, your records don't matter. Everything's 0-0. So I think it's really about who wants it more, who's hungrier. I think that's what it's about. You have to have the right mentality for March. It really doesn't matter if you've won 30 games or 15.
You know, truly, a couple weeks ago we were on the bubble, on the outside looking in. So, you know, just to see the buy-in and the trust, it's very rewarding. But I know for us, I mean, it's, you know, this last push that we have and this last tournament that we're most excited about.
It's the 7-10 matchup. Tip-off is Friday night at 7:30.
All right, Morgan, thank you. Coming up on Fox 45 News at 6 o'clock, what bills are going forward and what's being left behind? The latest from Annapolis on crossover day. And a father is sounding the alarm over youth crime in Baltimore after nearly being carjacked with his son in the back seat. What he says needs to change.
Breaking news out of Halethorpe. 4 firefighters are injured in a 2-alarm fire. And it's one of the most important days of the legislative session. What lawmakers are working to accomplish on crossover day. And a father speaks out after an attempted carjacking, why he says juvenile offenders and their parents need to be held accountable.
Live from WBFF in Baltimore, this is Fox 45 News at 6.
Our thoughts and prayers are with the family of our downed firefighters.
Well, breaking news right now out of Baltimore County. 4 firefighters are hurt after a 2-alarm fire in Halethorpe. This is what we know. Fire officials say just after 3:30 p.m., they responded to a heavy fire at a business and residential building. Parts of the building collapsed, trapping 3 firefighters. They were quickly pulled out, taken to shock trauma with non-life-threatening injuries. A 4th firefighter was taken to the hospital as well with a minor injury. No one else was hurt. But 11 people have now been displaced, and that includes children. It's not clear what caused this fire today, but we ask you to stay with Fox 45 News for the latest updates on air and online as we learn more. Mackenzie.
Kai, thanks. Today is crossover day and the last day for key bills to move from one chamber of the state legislature to the other. If those bills don't make it, their chances of passing drop significantly. Today, Republican lawmakers are raising concerns about some of their public safety bills getting left behind. The GOP leaders also pushing back on top Democrats in the House, calling for more than $1 billion in tax and fee hikes this year. Time is ticking for some bills to make it past crossover day. The critical deadline for legislation passed in one chamber, guaranteed to get consideration in the opposite chamber. With eyes on the clock Monday morning,
to have a just brief conversation about where we are with crossover being today.
GOP leaders in both the House and the Senate offer insight into their view of session so far.
From a top-line perspective, again, juvenile justice came out. Wasn't exactly what we wanted, but certainly had a couple of things that we thought were very important.
The juvenile crime plan already passing the House and the Senate, though the versions are not the same just yet. Those differences need to be worked out, making the theft of a firearm a felony moving forward in the Senate. But a top priority for Republicans again this year, the Violent Firearms Offender Act, calling for tougher penalties for repeat offenders using guns in their crimes.
Hasn't really moved. That's an area we would like to see more action on.
Like several years past, the bill likely not going anywhere. Another priority for both Democrats and Republicans, changing the state's diminution credit system. One bill named after Baltimore Tech CEO Pavel LePere. LePere found brutally killed at her apartment building. The suspect, Jason Billingsley, released from prison thanks to the diminution credits, or good behavior. Billingsley's rap sheet includes first-degree sexual offense, the same crime the legislation seeks to exclude from the diminution credit system, along with rape. LePere's family.
And we never want any other family to have to identify their daughter's body. Almost unrecognizable.
Emotionally pleading with lawmakers to change who's eligible for release.
Let us work together as a community and as a legislature and as a judicial system to ensure that Pavel Marie LePere is the very last victim of a convicted repeat sexual offender.
The House bill stalling in committee, a version in the Senate moving forward, but not another version from Republicans that calls for more crimes like murder to be excluded from the diminution credit system.
I can't explain any of that. And I can't explain what we're doing on taxes.
The taxes House Minority Leader Jason Buckle hinting at refer to the $1.3 billion revenue plan unveiled by House Speaker Adrian Jones and other top Democrats in the House Friday. The proposal calls for expanding corporate taxes, legalizing internet gaming, and tax on new fees on ride-sharing, tolls, and electric vehicles.
It is jarring to hear how the Senate manages to balance the budget without looking at additional taxes.
But as the clock ticks closer to the last day of session, a budget battle is brewing.
We will not be considering wholesale or significant increases to Maryland's income or sales tax.
Senate President Bill Ferguson quick to throw cold water on the lofty tax hike plan from lawmakers in the House.
I don't think there's much room for compromise. And frankly, this is what we've been saying for months.
Especially with the Senate passing a balanced budget already without the same tax hikes as the House. Instead, Ferguson calling for a bigger focus on economic growth to help offset the $3.3 billion budget shortfall in the years to come.
If we're not focused on economic growth and investing in ways to focus on economic growth, then I don't know what we're doing here.
With the House and Senate on different pages on this tax issue, there's only so much time left in session to figure out a plan to get a balanced budget through both chambers. The one thing lawmakers are constitutionally required to do during session. Most of Governor Wes Moore's legislative priorities are moving forward. The only piece of legislation yet to move out of committee is the Housing Expansion and Affordability Act of 2024. That proposal seeks to incentivize new affordable housing by allowing new housing developments with higher density. Despite the sluggish movement, the bill is expected to get a vote later this week. Fox 45's Jessica Babb will have more on that coming up on Fox 45 News at 10. And we'll have continuing coverage of the legislative session on air and online at foxbaltimore.com. Baltimore detectives are asking for the public's help to find this man. Police say 70-year-old Gregory Hightower of Baltimore is wanted for 2 recent sexual assaults of minors. Police say one of the incidents occurred along Gwynn Falls Parkway. The other happened on Tioga Parkway. Hightower is described as a 5'11" and approximately 184 pounds. Anyone with information is urged to contact 911.
Your fatherhood, I guess, instincts kick in of protecting your child.
A terrifying moment caught on surveillance video. A Baltimore father is now speaking out after he and his child were targeted by a group of juveniles in Federal Hill over the weekend.
Juveniles that are doing this have to be held accountable. The system that's in place now is simply not working.
Surveillance footage shows 4 suspects surrounding a car stopped while on Wheeling Street in Federal Hill. The suspects opened the car door and shouted at the father and his son inside before punching the father in the face. They took his key fob, but since it was still near the car, the father was able to speed away. Baltimore police say they tracked down the juveniles about a mile from the scene. 3 teens, ages 16, 15, and 13, were taken into custody. That father says those kids and their parents need to be held accountable.
Something must be done. I mean, it can't just be, committing crimes and just being slapped in the wrist and go on. It's a problem. It's a big problem. We're the parents. They should be held accountable. If they won't be held accountable, more of this is going to happen. And it shows a wrong message that this is okay when it's not.
Investigators say the youngest suspect was not involved and was released to their parents. The other 2 teen suspects were processed at the Juvenile Justice Center. If you have a stolen car story or know someone who has been impacted by the spike in auto thefts, we want to hear about it. Just scan that QR code right there on your screen and tell us what happened, or send an email to news@foxbaltimore.com. We have an update on the body found along a popular Baltimore County hiking trail over the weekend. Baltimore County Police now say there is no active threat to the community. Police say it appears this is an isolated incident that comes amid a recent string of violence inside secluded parks and walking paths across the state. Last week, police say a man grabbed and hit a woman on Centennial Park Trail. Earlier this month, another woman reportedly escaped an attack along C&O Canal. And tragically, mother Rachel Marin's body was found in a tunnel drain along the Ma and Pa Trail in Harford County last year. Hikers say they're staying vigilant.
This is one of the reasons why we always hike with a group. We don't come out by ourselves.
Following those rules of hiking, I think, it's kind of a wake-up call, like better do that.
Police did not go into any further details about this most recent incident, but did offer a crisis hotline number for those in need of support. You can find that information in this story on our website at foxbaltimore.com.
Good evening and happy Monday. At least we had the sunshine around today. Yesterday, of course, was quite a bit warmer. We're only in the 40s now. We're about 20 degrees colder than from where we were yesterday. Still quite a bit of wind out there today, around 20 mile per hour sustained. We've had a gust already, 34 miles per hour around the BWI airport. Tonight, we'll keep the breeze around. It's going to still be a bit gusty, and temperatures continue to chill down under partly cloudy skies. We'll drop to around freezing by the early morning hours. And we're going to be tracking, of course, some big changes coming your way. And one of those is going to be a brief warm up. But let's talk about one thing. This is going to be your meme theme of the day. This one's actually from Mackenzie Nelson. Let's see if she gets it. Psst. Hey, Mackenzie, guess what? Maybe she can see it. Maybe she can guess it. Spring
has sprung.
Is right around
the corner. I was close, though.
You're
Spring
close.
has sprung.
Tomorrow, spring will officially be sprung. So your headlines is going to be cooler and breezier for your afternoon tomorrow, as well as some temperatures closer to average as we get into the week a little bit later on. But at least we're staying dry. We're going to be tracking more and talking about your chance of rain coming up.
I'm Janae Bones in Washington. We'll look at the controversy over Donald Trump's bloodbath comment.
Now you can watch Fox 45 News for free anytime on Amazon Fire TV or Samsung TV Plus. Many are accusing Donald Trump of inciting violence for saying a Biden re-election would result in a, quote, bloodbath. Meanwhile, his backers and even some of his critics say his comments are being taken out of context. Sinclair National correspondent Janae Bowens breaks down the controversy.
Donald Trump is getting heat over comments he made about the auto industry under President Joe Biden.
Now, if I don't get elected, it's going to be a bloodbath for the whole. That's going to be the least of it. It's going to be a bloodbath for the country.
The reaction is harsh.
That is dangerous, it's irresponsible, and he should not get away with it.
The same people saying this is out of context have not condemned the other dozens of times he has made comments that prompt political violence.
When you then say, and there will be a bloodbath if I lose, you lose the benefit of the doubt because there's a pattern here that goes back a year.
The former president responded Monday on Truth Social, saying the fake news made a big deal out of the word bloodbath, knowing that it was about our shrinking auto manufacturing business and the fact that they use the same name all the time. They are so bad.
Would you agree with that assessment?
Well, I think they're often taken out of context, but you have a situation here where I don't think he cares that much. I think he believes he's impervious to these kinds of attacks. And to say that he meant literally bloodbaths, I think is a step too far.
Trump also posted a video of journalists and commentators using the word.
Not only is it going to be a bloodbath.
On Sunday, former Vice President Mike Pence rebuked his former boss for calling people arrested in connection to January 6th hostages. He's not endorsing Trump for president. Even still, Pence defended the controversial comments.
The president was clearly talking about the impact of imports devastating the American automotive industry.
Was that clear to you? Because it was a little muddled.
It was.
Now, Mackenzie, it's common for both Republicans and Democrats to take their opponents' words out of context. But many experts say in this case, Trump's critics are missing the mark.
Janae, so tell us, how does the public view the former president's rhetoric?
So I found a CBS YouGov poll from January about the former president's description of immigrants as, quote, poisoning the blood. Now, nearly half of all voters agreed with Trump's statement, with more than 70% of Republicans agreeing. Mackenzie.
National correspondent Janae Bowens, thanks so much. Meanwhile, President Joe Biden's re-election campaign had a big February. The campaign says it raised $53 million last month, which includes funds from the Democratic National Committee and other fundraising committees. It's a bright spot amid Biden's poor approval numbers. Biden is using the money to increase his presence in battleground states and hone in on his message.
Democracy is literally at stake here at home and abroad. Our basic freedoms are under assault. Freedom to vote, freedom to choose, and so much more.
The president's team says they have received funds from 1.3 million donors since the beginning of the year. Biden holds a cash advantage over Trump, who's scrounging for donations amid growing legal bills.
Let's take a look at your triple cast outside. Notice on the left, we've got the radar picture up, and it's showing snow showers across much of the Midwest. Parts of the Great Lakes region with the colder air coming across those lakes. It has been producing that, but we're not quite seeing anything like that around here. We actually have quite a bit of sunshine. Very thankfully, we need it after some chillier airs out there. All right, let's take a look now at your current temperatures, and we are at least staying fairly cool here. Upper 40s, even some low 40s to around 50 degrees, and it has been a much colder day today. In fact, about 20 degrees colder from this time yesterday. So if you haven't felt it, well, go outside. You really will, because it has been a major change since the past weekend, and even a bigger change since Thursday last week when we hit 80 degrees. It's really feeling like spring, or I should say looking like spring, not feeling like spring. And I'm hoping that we can avoid anything that is much colder for much longer. Let's talk about your average last freeze. Normally around the BWI airport, our average over the last 50 years has been on April 9th, but we've had it much sooner than that. The last freeze, the earliest that we've ever seen, has been back in 1978, which happened on March 20th. And the latest last freeze wasn't that long ago, only a couple of years, 2022, and it happened as late as April 29th. So plenty of wiggle room in here. We need to wait a while if you're planning on doing any planting for the gardeners, because you know we can still have plenty of cold air like this come in and ruin all your hard work and money. So let's just wait things out a little bit longer. All right, so here we go again. You're seeing the snow shower activity and clouds. We've been able to avoid the cloud cover, so it's given us some sunshine to warm us up into the 50s. We'll have some similar conditions. We still keep this pattern here, which is a very interesting one we have, with winds out of the north and west across the lake. We'll stay in the cooler air, but not necessarily out of the clouds completely. We will likely have more of that tomorrow. So here's the colder air. As we move through Tuesday, it's still going to linger a bit behind. By Wednesday, we get it to fade a little bit, and we'll get our temperatures to recover ahead of our next cold front. This is just going to reinforce the temperatures back down to these chillier than average temperatures. That's going to be Thursday and into Friday. So we're going to be keeping this sort of pattern here for at least this week. Temperatures tonight dropping to around freezing. So we're going to see patchy frost possible under mostly clear skies, and it will stay breezy tonight, tomorrow, all the way through Wednesday. But at least Wednesday, we're going to warm us up a little bit more. We're into the 50s tomorrow. We'll be in the 60s likely as we head into Wednesday. A brief break from the colder air, but get ready, more is coming. Rain chances will stay pretty low, if not zero, until we get closer to Friday and Saturday. We'll be seeing our better chances for some scattered showers, and that'll last into your Saturday morning. We'll be back in just a bit, and we'll have your 10-day forecast.
Weather Window, presented by the National Weather Desk.
Washington, D.C.'s cherry blossoms are now at peak bloom. It's the second earliest bloom on record, even beating the start of the city's festival by a few days.
Speaking of blooms, it's now officially bluebonnet season in Texas. Beautiful fields of the state flower are often found right along state highways. And spring may start tomorrow, but winter is still alive and well in Goshen, Indiana.
5 University of Maryland Greek life chapters under investigation tonight. The latest on the hazing accusations out of College Park. Hazing allegations at the University of Maryland have led to the temporary suspension of activities at more than 30 fraternities and sororities. Tonight, 5 chapters are still under the microscope, and word is getting out to students. Rebecca Turco from our Sinclair sister station in Washington, D.C. has the latest from College Park.
The University of Maryland continues to investigate 5 Greek life chapters after more than 30 fraternities and sororities had new member and alcohol-related activities temporarily suspended following hazing allegations. Allegations that include students being beaten with a paddle, being burned with cigarettes and torches, and having to lay on nails. According to court documents, 4 fraternities argued against the temporary suspension, claiming, among other things, it went against the students' rights to free speech. The university lifted the suspension Friday on all but 5 chapters after officials say they completed their initial investigation. And in a legal response filed that day, the university's legal team said UMD acted out of concern for the health and safety of students in a manner fully consistent with their code of student conduct. Students we caught up with were shocked by the extent of the allegations.
That sounds pretty inhuman, and that's pretty surprising for me that it's happening on campus and it's happening to like my fellow students.
Let's take a look at your 10-day forecast. Some good news in here. At least we're staying nice and dry as we head into this week. Not until Friday, Saturday we'll see our chance for some showers. It looks like it's going to be late Friday to early Saturday. Until then, it's going to be fairly chilly. We get one day in the 60s on Wednesday. Still some gustier winds, but we'll stay dry again most of this weekend ahead. Temperatures do recover back to the 50s after another shot of cold air comes through. But it doesn't look like we're going to be really warming up a whole lot. Even into later next week, we may still be stuck in the 50s for highs.
Finally tonight,